Welcome, Dan Doyle here, recruiting coach manager at NCSA. And today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Olivet College's head coach, Coach Sam Hargraves. Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Dan. Thanks for the opportunity, and I wish we were doing this in person.
Oh, me too. Me too. I'd love to be there watching you start practice or begin to prep for practice here. But Zoom is the new normal. So glad we're able to connect and see each other and catch up a little bit. So, Coach Hargraves, you were going into your second year at Olivet College. Olivet is a Division III in Michigan. So, before we jump into Olivet and your program, why don't you give us a quick overview on your coaching background?
No problem. Yeah, I was an assistant coach for 13 years. After my playing career got done at Calvin College, I was an assistant at a couple different Division IIIs and a couple different Division IIs in Michigan. Then got the opportunity to become the head coach at Alma College in 2011, and I was there for 8 years. And then the Olivet College opportunity came open last year, and so going into my second year there.
Perfect, perfect. And so, um, tell me a little bit about Olivet. Academically, what are you looking to recruit? GPA, test score wise, are you guys going test optional? So give me a quick
Yeah,
overview on the academic profile that you're looking for.
yeah. I still don't know for sure as far as test optional for this coming year. Um, we did not look at it for the second half of the recruiting class of 2020, just with the COVID situation. Some of the recruits weren't even able to take it, as I'm sure you know. So we didn't weigh as heavily on that. Enrollment wise, we have a pretty open enrollment, and we've got a wide variety of students with the lower end GPA. We've got basketball players that are in the middle, and we've got some that are on the very high end. So we really can attract a diverse pool of students, depending on the major and the track that they think they want to go. We try to be careful with making sure that we're not setting anybody up for failure. If we don't think they're quite the student that can handle a certain program, then we might talk about a different direction for them to go academically. So we really have a wide variety. I always joke we can handle anything except engineering and education. So we if you want to be a teacher or a mechanical engineer, probably need to go someplace else. But outside of that, we have the full gamut of academic options.
Awesome. And this here, the picture here is an aerial shot of your beautiful campus. I'd imagine right now with fall just coming upon us that this is absolutely beautiful and just a really sells itself when you get recruits on campus there. So where is the location? I know in Michigan you kind of just do a
Yeah,
hand. Are you guys dead center pretty much, or where are you there in
we're
Michigan?
right. Love the mitt. We're right in the south central, right in the heart of south central Michigan, and
Perfect.
there's some rolling hills. I mean, it's pretty flat. Obviously, the Midwest itself is pretty flat, but the center of the state is pretty flat. And then as you get down into Olivet, there's some beautiful rolling hills and trees and wooded area. Yeah, so with the fall color change taking place right now, it's always bittersweet, right? Because you love it, but then you know that the white stuff is coming not too far around the corner, and the temperature dips. But yeah, I mean it is exactly what it looks like. It is a small campus in a small town, very intimate, very safe. And so if that's what you're looking for, that's exactly what you're going to get.
Awesome. With that white stuff coming down, gives you more reason to get in the library or get to class where it's warm, or in the gym and work on your game. So,
That's exactly right. You
so
don't
you
have to
started.
be outside very long to walk from building to building either.
True, very true, very true. You started to talk about some of the majors there at Olivet. What are some of the more popular majors there with your roster or on campus there at Olivet?
Sure. Well, I'll kind of answer that both ways. And I was surprised. I've pretty much been involved in Michigan and paid attention closely to the MIAA my whole career. I had no idea Olivet is really one of the top schools for insurance, not only in the state of Michigan, but in the Midwest and in the entire
Mhm.
country. So we have guys that take advantage of the insurance program. Also, our criminal justice is one of the tops, And then we have a large number of guys that, like I would say, probably with most colleges, that are in the business area. And then we also have exercise science that's pretty popular. And we've got a lot of different majors within that, from personal training to coaching to sports marketing, sports management. And I would say really there may be a couple outliers, but everything I said there probably sums up all of the majors for our basketball program.
Awesome. And then do you implement a team study table, or do you guys have an academic advisor student athletes can lean on to help them throughout their academic career at Olivet?
It's interesting. We have, I don't know the exact count based on this year's class, but we've got just a little over 1,000 students. And I know you're familiar with the smaller colleges. A lot of people think a college is small if there's 5,000 students. And depending on what you're comparing to, that's true. But I think when you've got anywhere from 800 to 1,000 students, most of the schools that I'm familiar with are so set up from the standpoint of help that you have to try really hard not to get help at a place like ours. So not only are they going to know their professor personally, they've got myself and our assistant coaching staff that they can come to. Our men's golf coach is also our full-time academic liaison. So the communication options and airwaves are so open on our campus for student athletes to get help that you have to really not care about yourself to not do well. As far as study table, I've never been one that liked to just put the entire team in a room and shut the door and now tell them to study for an hour. I've seen over the years that might lend itself to become more of a social activity than an academic activity. So we really work with our guys on an individual basis, and those that need help will help set up appointments for them with academic tutors, with their professor. Although, like I said, by the time they get to us, they probably haven't used the available channels up until that point. So when we find out that somebody's struggling, then we get on it. But it often doesn't even get down to that point. And then a lot of times we'll just have them come into our office area, whether it's my assistant's office or even my office at times, and just help to try to make sure they get a quiet place where they can stay focused. But the college is set up for you to get a degree and for you to succeed.
Awesome. Yeah. Having coached at a school of similar size, the relationship that the players make with their professors is, remarkable. I remember when I was coaching, they would call professors by their first names in some cases. I'm like, don't you mean Professor,
Right.
Williams? And they're like, no, he told him, call him Bob, and you're just like, oh, that, just that unique, one-on-one experience they get with them is something special. So.
Sure. No doubt. I couldn't imagine going to a school, and I've never been at a large state university, but a class of even 150 people gets done, and then you want to talk to the professor. You might not be able to have time to wait in line to even have a conversation because you're going to be late for your next class that is probably a 15 or 20-minute walk anyways. So at the smaller schools, there really, really, truly is a relationship that gets built. And then I'll add too, with our school in particular, we're somewhere between high 60s or low 70% student athletes on our campus. So the professors understand that athletics is a major, major part of our entire campus community. So they're very open to working with them. And I always joke, if you didn't want to have athletes in your classes, I don't know why you would teach at Olivet, because probably 3 out of 4 students roughly are going to be an athlete. So it's set up well for that.
Good. And tell me about athletically, you're starting your second year here. Tell me a little bit about your coaching style, philosophy.
Well, the program has had some success in the last 3 of the last 4 years. They did quite well. When I took over, it was an interesting situation where the top 7 players all left the program. They were out of eligibility. So even though they had done well, it really was a complete rebuild, and it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time to have, at least 2 or 3 really good recruiting classes. We hope we've done that this year to get started on that, but we'll see how it goes. And then obviously with the unknown factors that we're dealing with this year. But my philosophy and my style, I always feel like I've got to give you a really short answer, or we've got to talk for an hour on this. I'm sure we both have young kids, so we've got some things that we'll have to do here in a few minutes. So I'll give you the short answer. But I'd like to think that number one, we want to play really hard. And if there's anything that I learned in my 13 years as an assistant coach, that I saw that you have got to get your players to compete as hard as possible. And it's one of those things that I think coaches sometimes will say, if I have to coach effort, then we're going to have problems. And I get what they mean. I think that gets taken out of context sometimes a little bit, because I spend all of my time coaching effort if I have to. And you can be the greatest X and O coach in the world, and if they're doing it at half speed, I just don't think it matters what you do. It matters so much more how you do it. So that's my big focus every day, is that we're going to come in and we're going to compete, and we're going to play as aggressively as we can. We're going to play with as much confidence as we can, but yet also with the aggression, there still has to come obviously structure and discipline. And it's just such a fine line between freedom and then being totally structured and playing like a robot. So I try to walk that tight line on a daily basis. And then all of that sounds great, but if we're not going to be unselfish, then there I think is the hardest thing to get people to do, but yet the most important thing. So
absolutely,
I get Dean Smith probably gets credit for it. Play hard, play smart, play together. I feel like I've seen that on a t-shirt since I was 8 years old, but it's 100% accurate.
Absolutely. And so talk to me about your program's culture. What are you about off the floor? What are you preaching to your guys, on a daily basis to, help develop them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of those things that I just talked about, I think those all apply to life. And as everybody that's coached, I know you've coached, if we're not in this to try to build better people and prepare them for everything that they're going to face down the road in life, then not only are we missing out on a big part of our job, I think we're missing out on the best part of our job. Mm-hmm. And that is seeing what somebody can become when they become an adult, the small role that we play in that, the influence that we can have on these guys at this age. It's just such an awesome process to see somebody come in as an 18-year-old freshman, and then what they look like 4 years later. And, I'm sure you've done it. I just went to 2 of my former players' weddings this summer, and that's where you see a lot of the satisfaction of what went on, Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't get invited, then maybe you didn't do a good job. So I guess that's a way to tell too. But it's nice when you get invited. That means you had a relationship with them, and to see them go from being a young man to a true family man is a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always tell players there's 2 types of coaches, ones that are just care about X's and O's, and the other ones that are invested in you. And you always want to play for the ones that are invested in you, because you'll grow so much more, not only as a player, but off the floor and to the young man every 18-year-old wants to be, and
yep.
Getting invited into weddings, I think, is kind of like a badge of honor as a coach that, you had some positive influence and they want you to share that big life moment with them. So that's great to hear, Coach. Tell me about your typical recruiting timeline. When do you start to identify prospective student athletes? When should they apply? When are you normally seeing commitments there?
Sure. And as we know, it was a little bit different this year, but in a normal year, the April, May AAU period that we're allowed at D3, that's when it typically starts. So we'll start to build our database and on the weekends in April and May. Then we get into the June, team camp circuit where they're with their high school teams. Then we get into July with more of the AAU. Then you sprinkle in a few individual showcases throughout the summer and especially into the fall. And we've got some of those coming up now in the next couple of weekends. We just had one last weekend down in Fort Wayne. So that's the timeline. Then we try to really hit the campus visits hard, end of summer, beginning of fall. Then obviously we get into the high school season, and there's more evaluation there, especially at our level, I think. But there's still a lot of just going and, as we all say, showing the love at the high school games, just to let them know how bad we want them. And then typically at Division III, in my experience, we start to get commitments end of April throughout the end of May. And then, of course, we're going to keep going up until the first day of class. Honestly, you never know what can happen. Somebody might decide to go someplace and something happens where they change their mind. And if they call us in June or July and we've still got space, we're going to take a look at anybody at any time. So nowadays it is truly a 12-month a year job, the recruiting. And at Division III, where we have really less restrictions than anybody as far as being able to evaluate and have visits and lack of dead periods and quiet periods and all those things, it never turns off. My one assistant coach that I had, he always compared it to a dripping faucet. It's just constantly going at a nice smooth pace, and you've got to always give it attention. Make sure it doesn't overflow your sink or anything like that. But you've got to give that dripping faucet its attention and always be paying attention to it.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned showcase in Fort Wayne. I know there's one coming up in Grand Rapids. It's
right.
The fall. You think, hey, I get to spend some time with my family or my players now that they're on campus. But no, there's things popping up where Division III, everything's live. So there is no recruiting off season. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Tell me about the goals that you have for your program. You're in starting your second year here. What do you hope to accomplish over the next 4 to 5 years?
Yeah, well, it's funny because this is my second time trying to get to do this and trying to build a great program. And I was fortunate enough to get just a few recruiting classes in a row where we had some really good players when I was the head coach at Alma, and we did something really special there. And that's exactly what I want to try to do here. I don't know any coach, or I've never had a conversation with a coach that's not trying to do the exact same thing. But it's a little different when you get to inherit something at the basement level and really get to build it and see if you can do it the way that you want to. Not to say that it wouldn't be fun to inherit a great program and just keep it going. I've never been in a situation to do that. I can't say I wouldn't mind maybe being able to do that someday, but there's going to be a lot of pressure and expectation when you go into a situation like that. So it's a blessing to be able to do this, but we want to try to see if we can recruit the highest character, best talent, but even more importantly, the best fit for Olivet College that we can find. And we work our butt off every day trying to get that done. Then you're going to live with the results and be happy when you go to bed at night.
Absolutely. And you're downplaying a little bit on what you accomplished at Alma. You inherited a program, like you said, towards the bottom of the MIAA conference and turned them into conference championship caliber team, and then made it to the Sweet 16, Elite 8. How far did you go there?
Elite 8. Don't shortchange me now. It was
I'm
Elite
sorry. So absolutely remarkable turnaround. And recruits, that should just speak, how well of a coach Coach Hargraves is and what he's all about, where, he's recruiting the right fit and getting, successful players on and off the floor there. Tell me a little bit about your campus life there at Olivet. Most freshmen, as they come in, are they living with another basketball player? Do you make that happen, or is that something that organically happens?
Yeah, we leave it up to them. And by that, I mean, that might sound like a lot of options, but it generally comes down to two options. They're going to come to school with somebody else that they know. And then if they wanted to room with that person, we have no problem with that. But the majority of the time, they're going to come and then we're going to pair them up with another freshman basketball player if that's what they want. Occasionally, there might be someone who says, I'm going to spend so much time with these guys. I just want to go with a random person. We used to call it potluck, I think, back in my day when I was going to college. So we'll let them choose. We don't have a situation where we take all of our players and just put them in a corner of the same dorm on the same floor. I don't think there's any right and wrong in this, but for me, I'd like to have them spread out amongst the dorms. And again, if we were at Michigan State, where there's 45,000 students and it's a different dynamic, I get it that those basketball players are going to be in their own area, as they should be. But again, at a small college where it's a big family atmosphere, it's 70% athletes. I hope they get to know and become good friends with people on the softball team, somebody on the baseball team, somebody on the football team. And I say to my guys all the time, if you want more people to come to our games and support us, then go make friends with a few people that are outside of your little bubble, your little basketball bubble. And I think that's one of the strengths of our campus. The student body, they support each other so well. They support the athletic team so well. Our football coaching staff is wonderful with that. And at most schools, they're obviously the driver. I mean, they've got 10, 12% of the student body just within their football program. So I'm fortunate because my staff and their staff gets along really well. But that's really the case throughout our entire athletic department. It's just like a big family atmosphere. And you hear that from so many small colleges because it's true. Mm-hmm. And that's the dynamic. So then as they get older, then we have some more off-campus options. And if somebody comes in as a transfer that meets a certain criteria, then they can live off campus. And that could mean one of two things. They either get an apartment within the area or we have college owned apartment housing. So they have those options. They can get a variety of different meal plan options if they would like, however they choose to do that. Of course, I think with coaches, that always makes us a little bit nervous. I like it when they get the meal plan because there's more of a chance they're going to eat better. They're college kids, so we can't expect that they're going to eat perfectly. I don't eat perfectly, so we can't expect that they would eat perfectly. But that's all part of the process of growing up and becoming an independent person.
Absolutely. And then with your student athletes, many of them hold work study jobs on campus or part-time jobs on campus, off campus.
Yes, absolutely. It's something that is doable. You're not going to work 40 hours a week. It's not going to be a full-time job, but yeah, we have several. We have one guy in our team that became an RA this year, which was great for him financially. It's a great option for him. He'll be able to balance that. So yeah, without question, it's a part of the financial aid package. It's something that they can do. Even opportunities to get a job off campus for a few hours a week. There's options that are within a drivable distance. So yeah, lots of variety there.
Good, real good. Say I'm a recruit and I'm interested in Olivet and what you're building there. What's my first step in getting on your recruiting radar and beginning the process? What should I do?
Yeah, well, if we haven't contacted you, obviously a great thing to do is to sign up with NCSA. And no, you didn't ask me to say that. I'm saying that. But when we get the emails, I look at every one of them. And for me, and just full disclosure, we don't recruit out of state a ton. With where we're located, being Division III, we're in Michigan. We've got the ability to attract a very diverse pool of student athletes, and Michigan's still a pretty well populated state. But that's not to say that we wouldn't recruit out of state. There just generally has to be some type of connection or interest level going into it. But if we get an email, whether it's through an organization like yours, if they contact us directly, shoot me an email, send me a highlight tape, that generally gets the ball rolling. The more information that somebody can put in there, where are they from, what's their GPA, give me your cell phone number, give me your coach's number at your high school, give me your, all the stuff that we all collect and look for. Just reaching out is a big thing. And I've not talked with too many coaches that aren't going to follow up and at least check that out and go from there. And then, the more personalized it is, the more impact it's going to have on my eyes when I read it, where it's like, okay, they didn't just send this to 200 Division III schools. They actually sent this to us because they've researched our school a little bit, or they know something about it, and they think it's a place that they would like to go. Mm-hmm. So why would we go down the road too far in the recruiting process when all of a sudden they realize, well, oh yeah, okay, I didn't realize the school's in Michigan and it snows there in January, and I don't want any part of that because I'm from Arkansas, let's say. So the more we can take care of that stuff up front, the better.
Absolutely. And as a former Division III coach, when you get that initial email, I always vetted how interested are they in me, because, we're limited with our time, our resources, where we don't want to chase. So, like you said, be personalized in your emails, and point out the specifics on why you're interested in that specific school like Olivet. So, that's always going to get more responses, because coaches, if it's generic, that delete, a button is pretty easy to find. So.
Right. And you think about it, Dan, we're not offering a basketball scholarship. Mm-hmm. So we obviously have limited roster size. At some point, we've got to cut that off. And some programs have a JV and a varsity. So you could realistically have 30 to 35 guys in your program, maybe more. Mm-hmm. But so how do we finally narrow that list down to who are going to be the people that end up coming to Olivet?
Yeah.
And that's quite a process. And it has less to do with talent than it has to do with just what you said. Are they a fit? Do they really want to be here? Is this a serious option for them? Because how many times just in your career recruiting where you look at, player A and player B, and you can't make up your mind on any given day, one is slightly better than the other, but they're so close. But then one of them makes us feel like they really want to be here. So, coaches want to be recruited too. Mm-hmm. Right? We that should be a T-shirt that we get made. So it's got to go both ways. And the better that my assistant and I feel about, man, this, Dan really wants to be at Olivet. Well, let's take him. Let's make this happen, as opposed to we feel like we're trying to convince them to come, which I don't ever want to do.
Absolutely. That's a great point there, Coach. Any last things on Olivet academically with your basketball program that you want to cover that we haven't touched on?
We've hit it all really well, but just just excited again for an opportunity for me to be able to build another program, see what we can do, and just, man, everybody stay patient as much as you can. That goes for high school players, college players, high school coaches, college coaches. We're all going through it. I'm thankful that we don't have to be in a 5-month NBA bubble. That probably wasn't easy, even though those guys make an incredible amount of money. That probably isn't easy what they've gone through. So happy that we have an NBA finals to watch. Hope game 2 is a little bit more competitive than game 1 was. But we just got to stay patient and get through it, and just hope and pray that things will be back to normal here before it goes on too much longer.
Yep. And you, with 2 little ones at home, I'm sure getting on a recruiting trip, you have to maybe get your wife some nice flowers, or have her say, hey, I'll take the kids tomorrow. You go to the salon. I couldn't imagine you trying to convince her to go to a 5-month bubble.
No. I don't think that'd go over too well.
No. So, Coach Hargraves, thank you so much. Recruits, go online, check out Olivet, and the program that he's building there. And then also when the season gets started, check him out online. Small college basketball has great streaming services, high quality. I think many of them are in HD, where, you can watch those games from wherever. If you can't make it live to one of his games, to check out his style, how competitive that conference is, and just what he's building there. So definitely check him out online. And Coach Hargraves, thank you again so much for your time here, and you have a great day.
Yeah, appreciate it. You too, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you.